If you want to understand why some people develop aggressive cancers while others with the same genetic mutations never do, don't look at their genes alone. Look at what they eat. Most people think cancer is purely genetic, that DNA damage is irreversible, and that once cells turn cancerous, there's nothing food can do. But after nearly 15 years in emergency medicine and working with oncology patients, I've seen something that challenges everything we were taught in medical school. Certain foods can actually repair damaged DNA and starve existing tumors by cutting off their blood supply. Not slow them down, starve them. A microscopic tumor without access to blood vessels cannot grow larger than the tip of a ballpoint pen. But the moment blood vessels reach that tumor, it can explode to 16,000 times its size in just 2 weeks. Hi, I'm Dr. Becker. I'm an emergency medicine physician, and after years of watching patients battle cancer while being told nutrition doesn't matter, I realized something uncomfortable. The research has been there for decades, showing specific foods can activate our body's natural anti-cancer defenses, yet almost nobody talks about it in clinical practice. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact foods that repair DNA damage at the cellular level and how your body can starve cancer cells by controlling blood vessel growth. We'll explore the science of angiogenesis and why it's the key to cancer prevention, the specific compounds in foods that cut off tumor blood supply, the remarkable ability of certain foods to fix broken DNA strands, and most importantly, the precise amounts you need to eat starting today to activate these protective mechanisms. Quick favor, I see messages from people who've watched several of my videos and didn't realize they weren't subscribed. Could you double check right now? It's free, takes 2 seconds, and it helps this channel reach more people like you who want real science-based health information. Let me start by explaining something fundamental that changes how we think about cancer. Cancer cells are forming in your body right now. In my body, in everyone's body. This isn't alarming. It's normal biology. You have roughly 40 trillion cells, and they're constantly dividing to replace old, damaged cells. During that division process, copying errors occur. Think of it like photocopying a document thousands of times. Eventually, you get some pages with mistakes. Those mistakes create abnormal cells, and some of those abnormal cells are technically cancerous. Right now, you probably have dozens of microscopic clusters of cancer cells in your body. So why aren't we all dying of cancer? Because your immune system finds these tiny clusters and eliminates them before they become dangerous. It's like having a security patrol constantly scanning for problems and removing them. But here's where things get critical. Even if some cancer cells escape your immune system, they still can't hurt you unless they solve one crucial problem. They need food, they need oxygen, they need nutrients. And to get those things, they need blood vessels. This is where the concept of angiogenesis becomes essential to understand. Angiogenesis simply means the growth of new blood vessels. Your body tightly controls this process because you need just the right amount of blood vessels, not too few, or your tissues die from lack of oxygen, not too many, or you get problems like the abnormal blood vessels that cause diabetic blindness. Think of it like a lawn that needs to be maintained at exactly the right height. If the grass gets too long, you mow it back down. If it's too short, you let it grow. Your body has systems that promote blood vessel growth when needed, and systems that stop blood vessel growth when you have enough. It's a perfect balance, what I call the Goldilocks zone, just right. Now here's what cancer does that makes it so dangerous. Cancer cells can hijack your angiogenesis system. They release proteins called growth factors that act like fertilizer, stimulating new blood vessels to grow directly into the tumor. Once those blood vessels connect, everything changes. Research has measured this precisely. A tumor that's completely isolated from blood supply stays frozen at about 1 to 2 millimeters in diameter. That's smaller than a grain of rice. It can sit there for years, decades even, completely harmless because it can't get bigger without nutrients. But the moment angiogenesis occurs and blood vessels penetrate that tumor, growth explodes exponentially. A study from Harvard Medical School tracked tumor growth rates using advanced imaging. They found that once vascularization occurs, meaning blood vessels reach the tumor, the growth rate increases by a factor of 16,000 in approximately 14 days. Let me put that in perspective. A tumor the size of a pinpoint becomes the size of a grape in 2 weeks once it gets a blood supply. This is why early detection matters, but more importantly, this is why preventing tumor angiogenesis is one of the most powerful anti-cancer strategies we have. For years, pharmaceutical companies have invested billions developing drugs that block tumor angiogenesis. These drugs, called angiogenesis inhibitors, are now standard treatments for many cancers. They work by cutting off the blood supply to tumors, essentially starving them. The drugs can be effective, but they also have significant side effects because they affect blood vessel growth throughout your entire body, not just in tumors. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this is where my perspective shifted dramatically. When researchers tested these angiogenesis-blocking drugs in the laboratory, they used specific assays to measure how effectively different compounds could stop blood vessel growth. In one groundbreaking experiment, scientists decided to test not just pharmaceutical compounds, but also extracts from common foods. They tested green tea extract. The results were so striking that if the researchers hadn't known it was from a plant, if they thought it came from a pharmaceutical company, they would have immediately moved it into clinical trials. The polyphenols in green tea, particularly one called EGCG, were as effective at blocking abnormal blood vessel growth as some experimental cancer drugs. But that's only part of the picture. Green tea isn't the only food with this capability. When you systematically test foods using the same rigorous methods used for drug development, you discover that over 100 different foods have measurable anti-angiogenic properties. They can slow or stop the growth of blood vessels that feed tumors. This isn't speculation. This is measured in laboratory assays, where you can directly observe blood vessel growth being inhibited by compounds extracted from food. The second mechanism is even more important for long-term cancer prevention. Certain foods can actually repair damaged DNA. Every single day, your DNA takes hits. Ultraviolet radiation from sunlight, chemicals in processed foods, environmental pollutants, even normal metabolic processes create DNA damage. Your cells have repair mechanisms, like a maintenance crew, that fixes problems before they become permanent mutations. But those repair systems need specific nutrients to function optimally. Without adequate nutrition, DNA damage accumulates. Think of it like a road that develops potholes. If you have a good repair crew and the right materials, they fill the potholes immediately and the road stays smooth. But if the repair crew doesn't have asphalt and tools, the potholes get bigger, more potholes form, and eventually the entire road deteriorates. That's what happens to your DNA without proper nutritional support. The most remarkable research on food-based DNA repair comes from studies on kiwi fruit. This surprised me when I first read the data. Kiwis are not typically thought of as a superfood, but the evidence is compelling. A study from the University of Oslo in Norway recruited 43 healthy adults and had them eat either 1 kiwi per day, 2 kiwis per day, or 3 kiwis per day for 3 weeks. At the end of 3 weeks, they measured DNA damage in the participants' cells using a technique called the COMET assay. This test literally shows you broken DNA strands under a microscope. They look like comets with tails, hence the name. The participants eating 1 kiwi daily showed 60% less DNA damage compared to baseline. Think about that. A single kiwi fruit providing 60% protection against DNA damage. The participants eating 3 kiwis daily showed something even more remarkable. Not only was new DNA damage prevented, but existing damage was repaired. Their cells showed 60% improvement in DNA repair capacity. The mechanism comes down to vitamin C and other antioxidants concentrated in kiwi fruit. Vitamin C directly neutralizes free radicals that cause DNA strand breaks, and it also supports the enzymatic systems that physically repair damaged DNA. But kiwis contain more than just vitamin C. They have polyphenols, flavonoids, and carotenoids that work synergistically. This is a critical point about whole foods versus isolated supplements. You can take a vitamin C pill, and yes, you'll get antioxidant benefits. But when you eat a kiwi, you're getting vitamin C plus dozens of other compounds that enhance each other's effects in ways we're still discovering. The whole food is more powerful than the sum of its isolated parts. Now, most people think preventing cancer means avoiding carcinogens, not smoking, limiting alcohol, staying out of the sun. Those things matter, but they're only half the equation. The other half is actively supporting your body's anti-cancer defense systems. Your body is already designed to fight cancer. You have immune cells that recognize and destroy cancer cells. You have systems that regulate blood vessel growth. You have DNA repair mechanisms. The question is, are you giving your body the nutritional tools it needs to run these systems effectively? Let me break down the specific anti-cancer pathways that food can activate. The first pathway is anti-angiogenesis, which we've discussed. Foods that contain certain polyphenols, flavonoids, and other compounds can inhibit the growth factors that tumors release to stimulate blood vessel formation. When tumor cells release VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor, trying to grow blood vessels into themselves, these food compounds block the VEGF receptors. It's like cutting the communication line between the tumor and your blood vessel building system. Wait until you hear which specific foods are most powerful at this. The second pathway involves direct immune activation. Your immune system has specialized cells called natural killer cells and T cells. These are the elite forces that identify and eliminate cancer cells. Certain foods dramatically increase the number and activity of these cells. A study from the University of Auckland measured immune cell counts in athletes before and after consuming blueberries. Athletes are interesting to study because intense exercise temporarily suppresses immune function, making it easier to measure the impact of dietary interventions. The researchers had athletes consume 1.5 cups of blueberries daily for 6 weeks. At the end of 6 weeks, the athletes had 88% more T cells circulating in their bloodstream. Their natural killer cell activity was also significantly elevated. This wasn't about feeling healthier. This was measured increases in the actual immune cells that destroy cancer. The active compounds are anthocyanins, the blue pigments in blueberries that act as powerful immune stimulators. The third pathway is what I call the microbiome immunity connection, and this is where the research gets truly fascinating. Your gut contains trillions of bacteria, and we now know that certain bacterial species directly influence how well your immune system fights cancer. There's one bacteria in particular called Akkermansia muciniphila that's emerged as a key player. Research from the Gustave Roussy Cancer Center in France studied 200 cancer patients receiving immunotherapy. Immunotherapy is a treatment that helps your immune system recognize and attack cancer cells. It works remarkably well for some patients, completely eliminating even metastatic cancer. But for other patients, it doesn't work at all. The researchers wanted to know why. They analyzed stool samples from all 200 patients and found that the only significant difference between responders who had excellent outcomes and non-responders who didn't benefit was the presence of Akkermansia bacteria in their gut. Patients with high levels of Akkermansia responded dramatically to immunotherapy. Patients with low or absent Akkermansia didn't respond. This bacteria essentially primes your immune system to fight cancer more effectively. So now that you understand the mechanisms, the question is, what can you actually do about it? What are the specific foods and how much do you need to eat? Let me give you the exact protocol based on the research and what I recommend to patients. Food number 1 is kiwi fruit. You want to eat 1 to 3 kiwis daily, depending on your goals. For general DNA protection and maintenance, 1 kiwi daily is sufficient. If you have higher risk factors, a family history of cancer, or you've had cancer and want to support your recovery, aim for 3 kiwis daily. The research shows maximal benefit at 3 per day. You can eat them with the skin on if you buy organic and wash them thoroughly. The skin contains additional fiber and polyphenols. If the fuzzy texture bothers you, golden kiwis have smooth skin and are just as beneficial. Cut them in half and scoop out the flesh with a spoon, add them to yogurt, or blend them into smoothies. Kiwis are also excellent for your gut microbiome because they're packed with prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial bacteria. Food number 2 is green tea, and you need 3 cups daily of properly brewed tea, not bottled green tea from the convenience store. That has minimal active compounds and usually added sugar. Actual brewed green tea from leaves. The active compound is EGCG, which inhibits tumor angiogenesis and also has direct anti-cancer effects on cells. A study from the Chinese University of Hong Kong followed 68,000 women for over 10 years. Women who drank green tea regularly, defined as at least 3 cups per week, had a 27% lower risk of developing colorectal cancer compared to non-tea drinkers. Those who drank green tea daily had even better outcomes. Here's how to brew it for maximum benefit. Heat water to about 175 degrees Fahrenheit. That's steaming, but not quite boiling. If you boil the water, let it cool for 3 minutes. Steep your tea for 3 to 5 minutes. Longer steeping extracts more EGCG, but makes it more bitter. You can add lemon juice, which actually increases EGCG absorption by about 6 times because the vitamin C stabilizes the catechins in your digestive system. Do not add dairy milk. The proteins in dairy bind to the beneficial compounds and prevent absorption. If you need to lighten your tea, use a plant-based milk like almond or oat milk. Food number 3 is blueberries, and 1 cup daily is the target. Fresh or frozen both work. Frozen are sometimes higher in anthocyanins because they're picked and frozen at peak ripeness. The anthocyanins do multiple things. They boost immune cell production, they reduce inflammation, and they have anti-angiogenic properties. But here's something most people don't know. Blueberries also help prevent the chronic inflammation that promotes cancer growth while simultaneously boosting immune activity against cancer cells. That seems contradictory, but it's one of the remarkable features of these compounds. They reduce harmful inflammation while enhancing beneficial immune response. A study from the University of East Anglia tracked nearly 200,000 people for over 20 years. Those who consumed the highest amounts of anthocyanin-rich foods, primarily berries, had a 17% lower risk of developing cancer overall. For specific cancers like esophageal and colorectal cancer, the risk reduction was even higher, up to 40%. Food number 4 is going to surprise a lot of people because there's been so much misinformation about it. Soy foods, tofu, tempeh, edamame, soy milk. You want at least 2 servings per week, ideally 1 serving every other day. There's a persistent myth that soy is dangerous because it contains phytoestrogens, plant compounds that some people claim mimic human estrogen. This is completely wrong. Phytoestrogens look nothing like human estrogen at the molecular level. In fact, they block human estrogen receptors, which is protective against hormone-related cancers like breast cancer. The active compound in soy is called genistein, and it's one of the most powerful anti-angiogenic substances ever tested. Research from the University of Illinois measured genistein's ability to block blood vessel growth to tumors. They found it inhibited VEGF signaling by over 70% in experimental models. Population studies support this. Asian countries where soy consumption is high have significantly lower rates of breast and prostate cancer compared to Western countries where soy consumption is minimal. A meta-analysis combining data from 35 studies found that women who consumed the most soy had a 29% lower risk of developing breast cancer. For women who had already been diagnosed with breast cancer, high soy intake was associated with better outcomes and lower recurrence rates. Food number 5 is broccoli, but here's the key detail most people miss. Broccoli sprouts are exponentially more powerful than mature broccoli. The active compound is sulforaphane, which activates your body's detoxification systems and also has direct anti-cancer effects. Mature broccoli contains sulforaphane, but broccoli sprouts, the 3 to 4 day old seedlings, contain 100 times more. A study from Johns Hopkins University measured sulforaphane levels and found that a small handful of broccoli sprouts provides as much sulforaphane as several pounds of mature broccoli. You can buy broccoli sprouts at many grocery stores in the produce section, usually near other sprouts, or you can grow them yourself at home in a jar, which takes about 4 days. Eat a quarter cup of broccoli sprouts 3 to 4 times per week. If you can't find sprouts, eat regular broccoli, but focus on the stems, not just the florets. The stems have about twice as much sulforaphane as the tops. Don't throw them away. Chop them finely and add to stir fries, blend into soups, or steam them alongside the florets. One more critical tip about broccoli. Lightly steaming it for 3 to 4 minutes actually increases sulforaphane bioavailability compared to eating it raw. but boiling destroys sulforaphane, so never boil broccoli. Food number 6 is tomatoes, specifically cooked tomatoes. The anti-cancer compound is lycopene, a carotenoid that gives tomatoes their red color. Lycopene has powerful anti-angiogenic properties and also protects cellular DNA from oxidative damage. Here's the interesting part. Cooking tomatoes dramatically increases lycopene availability. When you eat a raw tomato, you absorb a small amount of lycopene. But when you cook tomatoes, the heat breaks down cell walls and releases lycopene in a form your body absorbs much more efficiently. Tomato sauce, tomato paste, roasted tomatoes all provide significantly more bioavailable lycopene than fresh tomatoes. A landmark study from Harvard followed over 47,000 men for 12 years. Those who consumed tomato products at least twice per week had a 23% lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those who rarely ate tomatoes. Men who consumed 10 or more servings of tomato products per week had an even greater risk reduction, up to 35%. Aim for at least 3 servings per week of cooked tomato products. A serving is half a cup of tomato sauce, a quarter cup of tomato paste, or 1 cup of cooked tomatoes. Add olive oil when cooking tomatoes, because lycopene is fat-soluble, meaning it's absorbed better when consumed with healthy fats. Food number 7 is pomegranate, and you need about 4 ounces of pure pomegranate juice daily or half a fresh pomegranate. Pomegranates contain elagitanins that your gut bacteria convert into urolithin A, a compound that has remarkable effects on cellular health and immune function. But here's the critical connection to cancer. Pomegranate specifically feeds Akkermansia mucinifila, that guardian bacteria I mentioned earlier, that determines whether cancer immunotherapy works. A clinical case I'm aware of involved a patient with multiple myeloma preparing to receive immunotherapy. She had recently taken antibiotics for a respiratory infection, which completely wiped out her Akkermansia bacteria. Her doctor delayed treatment for 3 weeks and had her drink 8 ounces of pomegranate juice daily. After 3 weeks, her Akkermansia levels had increased to 6 times the normal population average. When she started immunotherapy, she responded in the top 1% of patients, with her cancer essentially disappearing after 3 treatments. This shows the power of strategically using food to optimize the effectiveness of medical treatments. For daily prevention, you don't need 8 ounces. 4 ounces of pure pomegranate juice with no added sugar, or eating half a fresh pomegranate, provides sufficient elagitanins to support Akkermansia growth. You can also get elagitanins from walnuts, raspberries, and cranberries, so rotating between these foods gives you variety while maintaining the benefit. Now here are my pro tips from 15 years of clinical practice for maximizing the anti-cancer effects of these foods. Timing matters significantly. Your immune system and DNA repair systems are most active while you sleep. Eat your DNA protective foods like kiwi and berries earlier in the day so your body has time to absorb and distribute the nutrients before sleep. Save your anti-angiogenic foods like green tea and soy for afternoon and evening. Don't eat heavy meals within 3 hours of bedtime because active digestion diverts resources away from cellular repair and immune surveillance. The combination of foods creates synergistic effects that are more powerful than individual foods alone. For example, drinking green tea with lemon increases EGCG absorption 6-fold. Eating tomatoes with olive oil increases lycopene absorption 3-fold. Consuming vitamin C-rich foods like kiwi alongside iron-rich plant foods increases iron absorption. Think about how you can combine these foods strategically. A smoothie with blueberries, kiwi, and a handful of spinach gives you anthocyanins, vitamin C, and sulforaphane all at once. A meal with baked tofu, steamed broccoli, and tomato sauce provides genistein, sulforaphane, and lycopene together. Consistency beats intensity. Don't eat 3 cups of blueberries one day, then none for 2 weeks. Your body's defense systems respond to consistent, regular input. 1 cup of blueberries every day is far more effective than 7 cups once a week. The same applies to all these foods. Regular, daily, or near-daily consumption creates sustained activation of protective pathways. Think of it like maintaining a fire. Steady fuel keeps it burning consistently. Sporadic large additions cause flare-ups, followed by dying embers. The biggest mistake I see is people thinking they need to eat perfectly 100% of the time, and then giving up when they can't maintain that standard. Remember, your body has redundant defense systems. If you're consistently eating most of these foods most days, you're giving your body tremendous protective capability. If you occasionally eat something that's not ideal, your fortified defenses can handle it. This isn't about deprivation or fear, it's about empowerment. Another critical mistake is assuming supplements can replace whole foods. You can buy lycopene capsules, EGCG extract, anthocyanin supplements. Quality supplements have their place, especially if you genuinely can't access certain whole foods. But supplements provide isolated compounds. Whole foods provide hundreds of compounds, working synergistically in ways we're still discovering. A tomato contains lycopene plus vitamin C, potassium, folate, and dozens of other carotenoids and polyphenols that enhance lycopene's effects. A supplement gives you lycopene alone. The whole food is more powerful. Preparation methods dramatically affect nutrient availability. We already discussed cooking tomatoes and lightly steaming broccoli. With green tea, water temperature and steeping time matter. With kiwis, eating the skin provides extra benefit. These small details add up to significant differences in how much of the active compounds you actually absorb and utilize. Don't overthink it to the point of paralysis, but do pay attention to these practical preparation tips. One more insight from my clinical experience. Patients who focus on adding beneficial foods rather than eliminating foods they love are far more successful long-term. Instead of thinking, I can never eat pizza again, think, I'm going to add blueberries to my breakfast and have green tea every afternoon. As you add more protective foods, they naturally crowd out less healthy options. You'll find yourself wanting that second serving of roasted vegetables instead of a third helping of pasta, simply because your body starts craving the foods that make it feel better. This gradual, additive approach is sustainable for decades. Restrictive elimination diets almost never last more than a few months. Look, cancer doesn't have to be an inevitable part of aging. The patients I see who remain cancer-free or who successfully recover from cancer aren't genetically superior. They're not lucky. They consistently eat foods that activate their body's natural anti-cancer defenses. Your immune system can recognize and eliminate cancer cells. Your body can control blood vessel growth to starve tumors. Your cells can repair damaged DNA. These systems exist in you right now. The question is whether you're providing the nutritional support they need to function optimally. Here's what we've covered. Cancer cells need blood vessels to grow beyond microscopic size. Foods containing specific polyphenols and flavonoids can starve tumors by blocking angiogenesis. Certain foods, particularly kiwis, provide powerful DNA protection and repair. Your gut bacteria, especially Akkermansia, play a crucial role in immune-mediated cancer defense. The 7 most powerful foods are kiwis at 1 to 3 daily, green tea at 3 cups daily, blueberries at 1 cup daily, soy foods at 2 servings weekly, broccoli sprouts at a quarter cup 3 times weekly, cooked tomatoes at 3 servings weekly, and pomegranate at 4 ounces of juice or half a fruit daily. These foods work through multiple mechanisms, including anti-angiogenesis, immune activation, DNA repair, and microbiome support. Consistency and proper preparation are more important than perfection. Combining foods creates synergistic effects more powerful than individual foods alone. You have more control over your cancer risk than you've been led to believe. Your body already possesses the systems to prevent and fight cancer. Food provides the fuel those systems need. If you found this helpful, please subscribe and give this video a like. It helps me reach more people like you who want real, science-based information about preventing disease and optimizing health. I'll see you in the next one.